Concluding remarks on the monastic discipline. The prime moral objectives of the monastic code of discipline Vinaya can be summed up as follows: to honor the monastic community and its activities, to emphasize the stability and well-being of the community, and to develop a sense of responsibility towards the community. The Buddha and his Arahant disciples embodied the spirit of this teaching and acted as paragons of virtue. Responsible and supportive actions in regard to the Sangha are correct according to Dhamma and consistent with the Vinaya. Respect for the Sangha is thus connected to respect for both the Dhamma and the Vinaya. A sense of responsibility for the Sangha is also connected to the practice for benefiting all human beings, because the term Sangha literally means community or multitude, and the monastic community was established for the welfare and happiness of all people. The Buddha is a leading example in this way of practice, as confirmed by these passages. The Tathagata, the Arahant, the fully awakened one, the champion and king of the Dhamma, relying on the Dhamma, respecting, honouring and revering the Dhamma, with the Dhamma as his standard, banner and sovereign, provides righteous protection, shelter and safety to the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, laymen and laywomen, by teaching thus such bodily action, verbal action, mental action, livelihood, dwelling in town or village should be undertaken, and such action, etc., should not be undertaken. I dwell honouring and respecting and depending on that very Dhamma to which I have fully awakened, and whenever the Sangha is possessed of greatness, then I also have deep reverence for the Sangha. When the monastic community increased, became more widespread, and grew in both knowledge and experience, the Buddha established various formal acts of the Sangha, Sangha Karma, by giving prominence and entrusting authority to the collective community. In regard to ordinations, for example, he ceased giving ordinations by himself or permitting individual disciples to give ordinations, and rather had the Sangha perform this duty. When Mahapajapati Gotami, the Buddha's aunt and stepmother, brought a set of new robes that she had sewn herself to offer the Buddha said to her, "Give to the Sangha, Gotami. When you give an offering to the Sangha, it will be made both to me and to the Sangha." Before the Buddha's final passing away, he spoke thus to Venerable Ananda: "Ananda, the Dhamma and Vinaya that I have taught and assigned to all of you, that at my passing will be your teacher." After the Buddha's final passing away, the Brahmin Vasakara asked the following question to Venerable Ananda: "Is there, Master Ananda, any single bhikkhu who was appointed by Master Gautama thus: 'He will be your refuge, point of reference, anchor, when I am gone,' and to whom you are now devoted?" Venerable Ananda replied that there is no such individual, nor is there such an individual who has been chosen by the Sangha and appointed by a number of elder bhikkhus before the Buddha's final passing away. Nevertheless, we are not without refuge, Brahman. We have a refuge, we have the Dhamma as our refuge. And he went on to explain how the Dhamma acts as a refuge. Brahman, the Blessed One who knows and sees, who is accomplished and fully enlightened, has prescribed the course of training and has laid down the Patimokkha. On the observance day, as many of us as live in dependence upon a single village, the strict meet together in unison, and when we meet, we ask one who knows the Patimokkha to recite it. If a bhikkhu remembers an offence or a transgression while the Patimokkha is being recited, we impose a penalty on him according to the Dhamma in the way we have been instructed. In this way, it is not the venerable ones who correct us, it is the Dhamma that corrects us. Venerable Ananda went on to say, however, that there are monks who are seen as leaders and as a mainstay. There are Brahman 10 qualities inspiring confidence that have been declared by the Blessed One who knows and sees, who is accomplished and fully enlightened. When these qualities are found in anyone among us, we honour, respect, revere, and venerate him, and live in dependence on him, honouring and respecting him. A monk who is appointed to adjudicate legal disputes must be one who defers to the Sangha rather than deferring to an individual, one who honours the truth rather than honouring material objects. It is incumbent on leading Arahant disciples to act as role models in giving importance to community activities. For example, there is the story of the Buddha exhorting Venerable Mahakapina to attend the observance day ceremony in order for the monks to review their conduct in light of the Vinaya. Even though Mahakapina was an Arahant and perfectly pure at heart, similarly, although Venerable Mahakassapa lived in a remote place about 4 kilometers from the place where the observance day ceremony was held, he would walk on foot each fortnight to attend the ceremony, even though it meant passing across a river. Those monks who are Arahants and non-returners who are able to enter the attainment of cessation, Nirodha Samapatti, make the following determination before entering that state. If during the 7 days that I enter the state of cessation, the Sangha requires to perform a formal act, for example, a formal resolution, nati kama, I will exit this state immediately before another monk needs to invite me. This is because the authority of the community is vital and worthy of respect. When events or circumstances occur that affect the welfare of the monastic community or have an impact on the growth or decline of the Buddhist religion, the monks, especially the Arahants, have an obligation to pay attention and to get involved. For example, they organize councils or recitations, Sanghayana, to purify the Sangha, protect the teachings from deviation or from disrespectful, slanderous people or ideologies, help the Buddhist religion survive in times of danger, and to cultivate and support those individuals who are skilled at safeguarding and promoting Buddhism. If an individual neglects to participate in these Sangha activities, the Sangha will impose a penalty on him, even if he is an Arahant, and even if the reason for neglect was to pursue a wholesome blameless action, like dwelling in a concentrated attainment. When the community imposes a penalty, the person penalized has the opportunity to explain the reason for his actions. But if the Sangha makes a final decision, the person will honour this, as is seen in the case of Venerable Ananda, who was rebuked during the first council. It is also the tradition for members of the monastic community to pay attention to minor activities requiring collective effort, like sewing robes. Such collective effort is particularly important in matters pertaining to formal acts of the Sangha, for example in regard to the Katina ceremony, during which the community agrees to offer a robe sewn from donated cloth to an individual monk. Every monk in the community, irrespective of a monk's seniority or spiritual accomplishments, should participate in sewing this cloth into a robe. Communal responsibilities can be separate in two layers of importance. A. Minor communal affairs pertaining to specific circumstances or deeds of mutual assistance to be performed as companions in a single community, which accord with the factors leading to harmony, Satratniya Dhamma. In particular, the factor of kindly assistance and support, Metta Kaya Karma, for example by nursing each other in times of illness, and the factor found in an alternative presentation of this teaching of a willingness to give a helping hand, Kin Kara Ni Yesu Dakata, a diligence to help out in all communal matters, big and small. B. Communal activities that have a bearing on the well-being and stability of the entire community on matters requiring joint consideration and decision-making, which accord with the factors leading to prosperity at Parihaniya Dhamma, especially the first two factors, to hold regular and frequent meetings and to meet in harmony, adjourn in harmony, and conduct Sangha business in harmony. In relation to the first matters, A. If a monk takes no heed and makes no effort to help out, it is likely that he will be criticized and censured by the community and requested to come forward to explain his actions and receive words of caution. This procedure, however, is dependent on the circumstances and has exceptions. For instance, there may already be someone else specifically assigned to a task. There may be sufficient people helping out, or the individual monk may have important personal duties to attend to. There is a story of a newly ordained monk who spent the afternoon quietly in his kuti while the other monks were sewing robes. The monks went to the Buddha and accused this monk of negligence. The Buddha called this monk for questioning, and when he found out that the monk had been developing jhana, he told the other monks to cease their protest. Similarly, there are occasions when the majority of the community is caught up and disturbed about communal issue, but respond to it in a confused and fruitless fashion. Those monks who remain quiet and detached in order to cultivate the Dhamma are considered to be acting appropriately. In relation to the second matters, B, there are no exceptions. When the community gathers to conduct a formal activity, Sangha Karma, all members of the community must be present. If a monk is ill or there is another reason preventing him from attending, then he must give his formal consent to the Sangha. In sorting out the details of these formal activities, however, the monks should first consider and look to those individuals who are directly involved or responsible for the matters at hand. The Buddha stated that for one who is still in training, it is a way of decline to not acknowledge and defer to those experienced elders, and instead to be obstructive and troublesome when there is formal communal business to attend to. The guidelines of social ethics, which are a part of the Vinaya, consist of a complete code of social conduct designed to make communal activities, the relationship to the outside world, and the whole environment in which a person lives conducive to the growth and prosperity of a person's internal life. And in a complementary way, this code of conduct promotes a spiritual life whose virtues will be expressed outwardly, creating an atmosphere in which all people can train themselves and develop virtuous conduct, concentration, and wisdom in order to discover true happiness with a free and pure mind and within a peaceful, ordered, and secure environment. The Vinaya is a model example of morality on the level of a code of discipline, which is a complete system of guiding social conduct for a specific group of people, namely the Buddhist monastic community. The monastic discipline is not a set of moral principles in a restricted or limited sense. Rather, it incorporates all aspects of the monk's social behavior and conduct, including the designating the terms and procedures for accepting new members into the community, along with their privileges and responsibilities, caring for and training these new members, appointing officials for specific communal activities, determining the proper policy in regard to the search for, production, storage, and distribution of the four requisites. For example, the kinds of allowable food, the receiving and sharing of food, making of and proper use of robes, the kinds of proper medicines, and the procedure of caring for sick monks, including responsibilities of both the nurse and the patient, the allowing of dwellings, the duties of a resident in these dwellings, the policy of building new dwellings, the design and planning of new dwellings, and the management of building projects. Regulations for organizing community meetings, the way of dealing with formal accusations, the proper conduct of a plaintiff, defendant, and the arbitrators of the case, the ways of executing and settling legal disputes, and the imposition of various penalties. The term Vinaya refers to a comprehensive system of conduct, enabling a specific group of people to be stable and secure, to live in a way that accords with their principles, and to perform their activities in an optimal way in order to arrive at their aspired goal. If one uses modern terminology, the Vinaya is a system of conduct that encompasses the entire range of governance, social management, legislation, economics, and education, along with other areas of responsibility, according to the formal agreements made by a group of people. This can include an entire nation, by enacting a constitution, charter, legal system, or set of edicts. In Buddhism, the term Vinaya denotes a foundation of conduct that supports the entire Buddhist way of life and promotes a favorable practice along Buddhist principles. Bhikkhu Vinaya is an instrument enabling the monastic community to be a source of prosperity and growth for the monks and to provide them with the true benefits that the Buddhist teachings have to offer. When the Vinaya exists, the monastic Sangha exists. When the monastic Sangha exists, the benefits derived from the Buddhist way of life exist. For this reason, a respect for the monastic community and its activities, and a sense of responsibility in regard to its stability and well-being is a key objective to Buddhist social ethics. The Buddha established a complete code of discipline, Vinaya, for the monastic community, which lies at the heart of the wider Buddhist community. As for establishing an expanded, detailed code of discipline for the wider Buddhist community, it is up to people in each specific time period and set of circumstances to accomplish this task by drawing on the spirit of the Vinaya, as King Asoka once tried to do. When one understands the principle of morality, Shila, on the level of a disciplinary code, one will be able to distinguish between morality as Dhamma and morality as Vinaya. The former is included in the term Vinaya, while the latter is the definition of the term Vinaya. One will also understand why the Buddha referred to Buddhism, the entire Buddhist teaching, as Dhamma Vinaya, and why the Dhamma and the Vinaya comprise the entire spectrum of Buddhism. Definition of Vinaya beyond the scope of moral precepts. The discussion of Vinaya above remains within the domain of moral conduct, Shila, or is directly linked to moral conduct. The term Vinaya, however, has a wide range of meaning. An understanding of the various nuances of this term helps to clarify the general Buddhist perspective and framework. There are two basic definitions for the term Vinaya. 1. The practice of conforming one's behavior and way of life to a systemized code of conduct. The development of self-discipline in order to follow an ethical code. The application of an ethical code to determine one's conduct, way of life, and communal activities. 2. A code of conduct, a set of precepts or a set of regulations, which are formulated as a principle or standard for training and self-discipline, and which give order and excellence to a person's behavior and to communal activities. Upon closer inspection, one can distinguish 5 nuances of meaning inherent within these two basic definitions. 1. Training. Training oneself and encouraging others to train themselves in order for one's conduct to be virtuous, correct, disciplined, and systematic, and to bring about success and fulfillment. 2. Discipline, care, and supervision of people's behavior in order that it accords with a code of conduct. Applying a code of conduct as a means to regulate people's actions and communal activities. 3. Declaration of rules and regulations, niti panna, the formulation and establishment of a code of conduct, rules and precepts, laws and statutes, etc., to act as guidelines and a set of criteria in training or regulating people. 4. Legislation, niti panyati, the actual code of conduct, rules and precepts, laws and statutes, etc., established for training or regulating people. 5. Arbitration, vinichaya karana, passing judgment in the case of legal disputes, settling them according to an established code of conduct, laws and statutes, etc., in order to maintain righteousness, orderliness, and peace. In terms of human social evolution, the Buddhist teachings state that these systems of regulation arise out of necessity. When people live together in large numbers, with each person seeking the 4 requisites and consumable objects, it is natural that there arise quarrels, conflict, and competition. As a result, someone is required to settle these disputes, giving rise to supervision and governance. For the well-being of society, the chosen ruler or governor must establish rules and guidelines for resolving any problems and regulating people's behavior. A set of rules and laws are thus prescribed, and legislation is enacted. And when disputes arise, judgment is passed and punishment meted out. Originally, it was the sole duty of the ruler to lay down the law and pass judgment in times of conflict. Later, as human societies developed and became more complex, institutions and organizations were created to help establish legislative and judicial systems and procedures to carry out these duties on behalf of the executive branch of government. Here we can see that even the court system and the administration of justice is one aspect of the term Vinaya. As mentioned above, social exigencies brought about the need for a ruler. who was empowered with the right to judge legal disputes and lay down rules and regulations. The purpose of these guidelines was to foster social order, peace, and virtue, so that citizens could engage in their livelihoods with minimum conflict and that society would be secure and prosperous. If the society had a just ruler whose honesty and righteousness was trusted by the people, he would be referred to as a righteous wheel-turning monarch, Chakravarti Dhamma Raja. Although in such societies there existed something called training, it was generally only for developing knowledge and aptitude in those arts and sciences necessary for successfully engaging in a profession in order to meet the demands of that particular society. An important contribution of Buddhism in this context of Vinaya was a change in how people are guided and managed. The regulation of people as a consequence of the social exigencies mentioned above, supported chiefly by a system of governance, is a means of controlling people through obligation and compulsion. This form of control is inadequate and not truly effective. One ought to also cultivate a sense of self-discipline. Human beings are capable of being trained. They are able to change from bad to good, from coarse to refined. They have the ability to develop the highest spiritual qualities, including virtuous conduct, inner fortitude, happiness, and most importantly, wisdom, which leads to the realization of the ultimate truth. Human beings are the primary agents in this dynamic. Human society is formed by the intentional actions of people themselves. For this reason, the essential discipline and training should occur within each individual. A key feature of Buddhism is that the Vinaya, the system of guidance and management, emphasizes that people manage themselves by cultivating virtuous conduct, the mind, and wisdom. Those acting as guides are viewed as beautiful friends, Kalyanamitta, rather than disciplinarians. In Buddhism, the Vinaya is seen primarily as a system of spiritual training. For this training to proceed well and reach success, the other aspects of Vinaya are introduced as supports, including supervision, administration, and the laying down of rules and training precepts, and a course of justice, including the settling of disputes. This key system of training is reinforced by Vinaya in the sense of supervision, legislation, and arbitration, as described above. Importantly, the Buddhist discipline does not rely chiefly on adhering to rules and imposing punishments. The emphasis is on training rules rather than commandments. Let us now turn to a literal explanation of the term Vinaya. Traditionally, this term has been defined as leading to excellence. It may also be translated as guiding or managing. In particular, this term refers to managing individual people so that they develop in virtue, reach fulfillment, and are released from all suffering. Managing society to bring about social peace and stability, and managing miscellaneous affairs so that they are accomplished well. The adjectival form vinita, past participle of the verb viniti, is frequently used in the scriptures, primarily in reference to individuals and groups of people. It may be translated as led to excellence or well trained when used in reference to affairs and circumstances. Example in the term Vinita Watu. It means that these things have been carried out, concluded, and accomplished well. The Buddha stated that he would defer his final passing away, parinibbana, until his disciples from the four assemblies were well trained, vinita. In many commentarial passages, the term Vinaya is explained as the threefold training, tiso sika. The meaning of the term Vinaya is made clearer when it is compared with the word Dhamma. Dhamma refers to essential truths and principles ranging from laws of nature to principles of conduct comprising the holy life, brahmacharya. The Vinaya is a way of applying these truths and principles, giving substantial form to the conduct and behavior of the holy life, and enabling this behavior to spread outwards into the wider world. In other words, Vinaya acts as an instrument for the Dhamma, regulating how a community or society functions in accord with the principles and objectives of the Dhamma. It helps to systemize the holy life. The Dhamma focuses on the essence of the teachings and emphasizes the individual. Vinaya focuses on form and emphasizes a system of practice. If people overlook the deeper meaning of Vinaya, do not apply the social principles inherent in the concept of the Vinaya, and do not apply the spirit of this concept to their everyday life, do not formulate a systematic code of conduct that is based on Buddhist values and appropriate to the present time, follow it strictly and share it with others, and do not seek the essence of the Dhamma, it is reasonable to expect the following dire consequences. The domain of Buddhist practice or the sphere of a Buddhist way of life will become more constricted and limited. The Buddhist community will not advance. On the contrary, it will be on the defensive and retreat far from the rest of human society, as if fleeting to an island surrounded by rising tides, cut off from the rest of the world. The social circumstances, especially the overall state of society, will change according to outside power and influences, with Buddhists having almost no participation in the creation and management of social affairs. When social circumstances change in ways unsupportive to Buddhist practice, they will have a direct impact on Buddhism, perhaps even reaching the stage where Buddhist practice is impossible. If this happens, Buddhists will have themselves to blame for their carelessness and neglect. The ancient traditions in Thailand related to ordination of having boys and young men be ordained as novices and monks to receive an education in the monastery, and the belief that a man must first be ordained as a rite of passage before he gets married and starts a family of his own, are examples of establishing a moral code Vinaya and a Buddhist social system which helped greatly for Buddhism to thrive and become widespread in Thai society. The deterioration of these traditions has had obvious adverse effects on Buddhism in Thailand. If Buddhists do not understand the essence of the term Vinaya and the true objective of Buddhist social ethics, not only will the spirit of moral training not extend out and be integrated into the practice of lay Buddhists, but even the essential function of the monastic Vinaya will fade away, leaving only a set of empty rituals. If one is to restore the proper application of moral discipline Vinaya, a mere emphasis on strictness of form is inadequate. An essential task which has not been carried over from the past and has been reduced in importance is to restore and revive the spirit of social ethics inherent in the monastic Vinaya. Moreover, Buddhists should extend this spirit of social ethics upwards and apply it to the spiritual practice of the lay community, establishing a Buddhist code of conduct and social system that is appropriate to today's day and age.